Hi, welcome to the channel on magnetic energy technology, principles, applications. This video is about the magnetic energy and the attraction of likes. And I always look forward to doing these videos because I really have no idea what I'm going to say until I actually do the video. That's weird, right? But you know what? It is what it is. And so this is a bit of a response to some questions that have come out recently, and I'm going to do a quick little experiment. I'm going to show you this very simple, very basic experiment. But here's the thing. This experiment, when you extrapolate this from like a mechanical engineering perspective and other perspectives, the same principles and concepts that I talk about in this simple little experiment are used dozens of different ways in the units. If this experiment did not work, the units would not work at all. So this whole idea of the attraction of likes is a fundamental principle in the magnetic energy model. So I'm coming from that model. So please be aware, okay? I'm not going to give a conventional explanation for this. And if you like that conventional explanation, go look it up and enjoy yourself. And then come back to this video and learn how things really work. Okay, so all right, this is a regular ball bearing, okay? No big deal. And this is a regular bolt. Nothing special about it. Now the bolt obviously will not stick to the ball bearing without magnetic influence, okay? So there, that's the first thing. Now, when I take a magnet, just an ordinary magnet, and I'm going to get into detail on this in a second here. I put the ball bearing on here, and I take the bolt, and I lift the ball bearing up. Even with gravity on its side, okay, the magnet cannot take the ball bearing away from the bolt. Okay, and I know there's some attempts, at conventional science to explain why this is happening, but I have to explain it from the magnetic energy model point of view. So this is an etheric model, okay, an etheric model of the universe. So this assumes everything is an open system, and there's lots of cool little derivations, extrapolations that you can do with this experiment. There's lots of things fun little tricks that you can do, and I'm going to talk about a couple of them. So the magnet is influencing, in the magnetic energy model, the magnet is influencing the etheric flow of the bolt and the ball bearing and changing that etheric flow. We might say that it's organizing it more. From a conventional point of view, they would say electrons are pointing in a certain direction. Now I like it. So electrons can point now, right? So they're pointers, like little arrows. Imagine little arrows. No, don't imagine that because that's ridiculous. So let's get into what an electron, I'm trying to put that in quotes, electron, what that might actually look like in the magnetic energy model. So we have a very complex vortices and energetic structures of energy combined with vortices of energy that have magnetic resonance signatures in them that are dynamic. Okay, so these are dynamic energy signatures that are influenced by their environment. Okay, so the bolt and the ball already have a resonance signatures in their subatomic core parts. Now remember, there's nothing solid. This is all energy, but these are energy structures that are stable, but they have etheric magnetic energy feeding into them at all times at varying pulse rates depending on the elements involved. Okay, so as the magnet influences the etheric or magnetic energy flow of the ball and the bolt, the similarities in the magnetic resonance signatures, the energetic structures between the ball and the bolt are more similar than they are between the magnet and the ball. Okay, are you following? So this is the attraction of likes. The bolt and the ball bearing, they have energetic signatures, magnetic energetic signatures that are more similar. So when they are charged or when they are getting influenced by a magnet and their etheric flow is being altered temporarily. Now if I pull this away, the farther I get, it will lose, it'll drop depending on how strong your magnet is and other factors. Now, here's a very important point. with certain magnets like neodymium, and if the magnet is too strong or too weak, this process will not perform as efficiently. And that goes with the units as well. This is why with various magnetic energy units, we have narrowed down the precise magnets that need to be used in those units, okay? And if you move away from that, if you try other magnets, whether they're stronger or they're different composition, the efficiency of the unit will decrease until it doesn't function at all. And so you have to consider the elemental signatures of your magnets in relationship to the other elements that you are working with. So this magnet that I'm holding cannot be too similar to this ball bearing in this bolt, otherwise this experiment doesn't work very well. Now, if you were to set up a jig of some sort and you perform this mechanically, let's say a couple million times, fast, and you kept pulling them apart, the magnet, as long as it is not encapsulated incorrectly, like as long as you leave space around it and you allow a field to stay around it and an etheric flow to continue through it, and trust me, when the technology is available, the etheric flow through everything is going to be very, very closely documented on all objects, on all open systems. Now, right now, it's a little bit beyond conventional science. It's not beyond what's happening in top secret labs, I can tell you that right now. But from a university point of view, if you will, it's not happening. And people say, I've never seen any evidence of any etheric flow. Well, that's because you don't have the technology yet, but you will soon. And so if there's too much similarity between the magnetic composition, the magnet's composition, and the ball bearing and the bolt, then this experiment doesn't perform as well. But okay, so if you separate them mechanically over and over and over, the magnet will not run out of energy or die, or whatever you want to say, get weaker, unless you improperly encapsulate it, like let's say like in an aluminum framework, and you basically you inhibit or you kind of deflect or diffract the field of it, and then you perform that mechanical maneuver over and over and over, the magnet will drain in about a year or so, depending on how fast you perform that function. And so that's just a simple demonstration of how important it is to respect the field around the magnet, because if you don't do that, you will drain the magnets on a unit. And I've talked to plenty of people that have tried to work on free energy units, and their magnets get drained in a fairly short, like 1 to 3 years, and that's part of the reason why. So now the electrons, they're all pointing like little arrows. So no, they're not. So the vortices, what's happening is the electrons, if you want to call them that, the energetic structures in these, the vortices are going in, they have an inflow of energy and an outflow of energy. The inflow tends to hook up to the outflow. That's why there's an attraction. And that attraction is so strong that it overcomes the power of the magnet, even with gravity on the magnet side. It still overcomes it. And that is so critical. That attraction of likes is fundamental to the functioning of these units, especially when we're at this rudimentary phase of this technology where we're depending on rotation and units and all kinds of metals, and we're kind of pre-crystal, if you will, at this point. So those vortices, they will interlock. The vortices of energy, the vortices of the energetic structures between the bolt and the ball will interlock as long as this magnet is influencing their etheric flow between them. And so we're talking about resonant signatures that are very closely connected because the elements are so similar in these two objects. So what does that mean for us in terms of metaphysics? Because I always like to bring it back to metaphysics, in case most of the people watching these videos probably have nothing to do with building units or technology. So how can you apply this to your daily life in a metaphysical way? So you could kind of make a very loose analogy, if you want, that the magnet, if you will, is kind of like the source energy, right? So you have source, path, energy that's coming like into us at all times. And the prominent energy center on our beings or our bodies is our heart energy fields. They resonate quite powerfully and they're quite large. And they resonate most closely with that source energy coming in. So, if you align your awareness, your thought energy field, with your heart center, and it's so important that we, especially nowadays, when in the time that we are at, in the transitions we're going through, we've got to try to keep coming back to our heart center as much as we possibly can. And as we do that, as we align with that source energy, what that does is that empowers us to attract much greater than we did without doing that. It empowers us to attract everything. So that could be people, objects, places, any type of energy, events, circumstances, coincidences, situations. Attracting those things that are in alignment with that source path resonance, that energy that kind of gets centered in our heart energy center. So if you want to empower your creative potential, your co-creative ability in life, when you align with that heart center and you bring in that source energy, you are greatly empowered to attract that which is in connection or alignment or similar vibration to your heart path. I hope that makes sense. And so that now, but for a lot of people, they may say, "Well, who gives a shit?" Because I don't really, I want a new car or whatever, and but that's good and everything, but that may not necessarily be in alignment with your source heart path. And if you tune into your heart center, if we tune into our heart centers and we get clear on that, we get all kinds of signs, we get all kinds of new relationships or new events, or we track the things that are in alignment with that path, because we are now empowering our consciousness, our thought energy field, our awareness with that. And boy, what an attractive, powerful force that is. And then that's where kind of that unconditional love can really come into play and really manifest through our actions and through our life path energy. The people that do that will be the first people that work with this magnetic technology, whether it's in small villages, whether it's in small groups, or experimental situations, living situations where the technology is real world tested in a small community environment or in multiple community environments. It's the people that are willing to keep coming back to that heart path, that source path energy, and have that empowered attraction to their, I don't want to say destiny because that's such a trigger word, but it's their higher path energy. So if you want to call it destiny, that's fine, but it's the destiny that you have chosen, that we have chosen at a much higher level. And so that, and having the ability to attract all the elements necessary to manifest that path in this physical reality is so awesome and so critical to the manifestation of things like magnetic technology and the rise in consciousness and the evolution of humanity on this planet. So with that said, I think that probably covers the basis of what I was supposed to cover in this video. And so yeah, simple experiment, but it has profound implications. It certainly has profound implications in the units when we're using the magnetic energy to create powerful track fields that are temporary between other elements. And when it comes in terms of rotation and things and sustainability in the technology and reliability in the technology, it's really all about that. Oh, here's the last thing. The idea of polarities. The idea that somehow the magnets have these mysterious polarities, that how opposites attract. This is a grand lie of science. This is a lie that has been around for quite some time, a long time, and it is a massive lie. There is no mysterious pointing electrons or something that cause opposites to attract. The inflow and outflow, and there's a subtle difference there, but that inflow and outflow of energy is what causes the attract and the repel. The difference being on that is it's the inflow and outflow and the magnetic resonance signatures that take part in that process. So as you get into details on that, it's not simply the attraction of likes, it's the completion of a flow of energy from one magnet to another. So there's attracting because there's a completion, it's a completed circuit between one magnet to the next. And so this whole idea of polarities, and it's just, God, it's just been fed throughout an entire system with good and evil and light and dark and black and white and Democrat and Republican, and we have polarized our entire freaking world on these incredible assumptions that polarities exist when they're all part of the same system. It's all part of the same expression of the same energy, and it's just different ways of how that energy is flowing. And so that's so huge. And if humanity could just get that whole thing, that no, this idea of polarities being part of the natural world is completely ridiculous, and opposites attracting is completely ridiculous. That is a huge lie that science has perpetuated upon the human race, and hopefully at some point it will be dismantled. Now, we can still use the word poles and polarities and all that for the sake of the explanation. Hopefully those words will be modified in the future. But if we do use them from the magnetic energy model point of view, we have a different understanding of what the dynamic is, what's actually happening in the process. And I think that's the point that I'm trying to make, is that don't buy into opposites attract, likes repel. It's a matter of the inflow and the outflow and how those connect to each other. And so with that and this fun little experiment, you can try this wherever you want to, and it'll sit there and go forever. In fact, if something happens and it doesn't, we're having some pretty serious gravitational shifts, and we should talk about that later, because we are due for some pretty significant gravitational shifts in the next few years, and I'm going to do another video on that. So I will talk to you soon. Thank you so much.